Here we go. Hi everyone, I am Roberta. I am TranslaStars social media manager and content manager, and I'm here today with David García Ruiz, SEO translation expert. Hi David, how are you?
Hello, very well. Hello.
I'm glad. So we are here today to discuss what are the common challenges that SEO translators face and how to overcome them. But before we start, please remember to drop your questions in the chat. If you want to ask David anything, we will address them at the end of the interview, which will last about 20 to 30 minutes. And also, this interview will be recorded, so you can catch up on it later. So if you're ready, David, we can get started.
Let's go.
You were born ready, I know that. So first question, could you please define SEO translation in your own words for those who are not familiar with this specialization?
Okay, so when we talk about SEO translation, rather than providing a translation that is correct, you need to provide a translation that is not only correct, but is also the most popular, like answer, or it contains the most popular terms, keywords, words that people would use for that sentence. So if I give you an example, if we're talking about studying in Germany and we're translating a blog post about studying in Germany, you may have a sentence such as how to apply to study in Germany. Now, if I translate that word by word into Spanish, for example, is a perfectly fine translation. There's nothing wrong with it. However, most people in Spain are going to perform that search on Google, on search engines, with a direct translation of how to apply to study in Germany. Most people in Spain are going to say something like requirements to study in Germany. So if we are doing an SEO translation, we are gonna say requirements to study in Germany, simply because this is what most people type on Google, and this is how we're gonna get the most traffic into our website. So rather than providing only the correct translation, providing the correct translation that is also the most popular in the country.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing this for almost 10 years now, but how did you start your career in this field, and why did you choose it, or did it choose you in some kind of way?
Okay, so after I finished my master's in the UK, there was this marketer called Nigel T. Packer, and he was running like a 3 months course at Swansea University about digital translation. And in this course, he talked about PPC and SEO, etc. And I got interested in the topic. And as it happened, one day there was a job offer in a very popular translation platform that I'm not going to name, and they were looking for an SEO translator. And I applied to this agency. It was a digital agency, and I just did one job for them with my very little knowledge, but it was a very straightforward task. And a couple of months after, someone who was working there was going in maternity leave for 9 months. So pretty much they said to me, would you be able to cover this person for 9 months? I was working remotely, freelance, and they basically trained me. They provided me with many reference materials, and that's how I started in the doing SEO translation, and I started knowing more about the subject.
So you studied with the Uber Suggest guy.
No, it's a different guy. It's just nothing to do
because
with
it would have been wonderful, you use Uber Suggest and you study with the Uber Suggest guy. It makes sense. No, it's a pity though. he should do that. What has changed in the last 10 years in the SEO translation world?
Okay, so when I started, what everyone would ask you to do when talking about SEO and translation would be to provide keywords, a primary keyword, a secondary keyword, a third keyword. It was all about keywords, okay? and over the last few years, there has been a shift from keywords to search intention. So basically, in the past, it would be all about the example I gave before, something like how to study in Germany. You will look for a keyword that is closely related, but now rather than focusing in a keyword that is closely related and is popular, you focus on a sentence that fulfills the same search intention. So giving a different example now, let's say we have a blog post that says, what is a blog and how does it work? That's what people say in English. People who are looking to start their own blog post say, okay, I want to find out more about this topic. They go on Google and they type, what is a blog and how does it work? How can I make money? And therefore, when someone writes a piece of content in English, these are the questions that they answer, because that's what people in the UK, in the United States, are looking for. So they match the search intent of the person with a piece of content. Now, in Spanish, for example, people don't search exactly for the same things. In Spanish, people say, what is a blog post and what do you use it for? So in English, people don't say, what do you use it for? But that's what the Spanish people look for. So when you are doing SEO translation, or you're also creating content or adding content to a translation, or you want to optimize a translation, that's different services that you can offer, you are gonna try to include the sentence or the group of sentences that Spanish people look for. So rather than just finding the exact keyword or the exact sentence, you try to find out what Spanish people look for in their countries to provide exactly the information that they are looking for and to match the intention of the search entirely. So rather than just providing information about what is a blog, you also provide information about what do you use a blog post for, which you don't provide in English because people in English don't tend to look for that type of information, but for something slightly different.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about money, something that no one does. Could you give us an idea about how much an SEO translator / SEO content writer makes?
Okay, so it depends of 1,000 factors. So just talking about this topic is a bit of a minefield. It depends on your language combination. It depends on the topic that you are translating. It's not the same to translate about English courses and translating about cybersecurity, because the terms about cybersecurity are going to take longer than the terms about English courses, unless you are an expert in cybersecurity, which means that you're going to charge more anyway. So when talking about SEO translation, I would say that when it comes to the translation itself, you don't necessarily are going to charge a lot of more money than normal translation, but to do that translation, before you do the translation, you need to do keyword localization or keyword research. So for that task, for that service in particular, you're going to charge more money before doing the translation. So basically, rather than just charging your per word rate, you're going to charge some lump, a total amount for doing the keyword research, which again, it depends on a big number of factors how much you're going to charge. So I cannot give you an exact figure, okay? But I hope that's helpful. Now, when it comes to content writers, recently I read some statistics about how much a content writer charges for a blog post of around 1,000, 1,500 words. And again, it goes from $50 to $2,000 and even more. I remember 23% of the people who responded to that survey said that they charged $250. So I think that was the biggest segment. It was $250 for 1,400 words blog post. So yeah, that can give you an idea of how much the average person can charge for.
Okay, and now we can get to the challenging part, which is what are the most common challenges that SEO translators face now, and how can they overcome them?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about 4 different challenges. which I think can be 4 things that anyone who works in this industry is going to come across at some point. The first challenge that I have, I encountered myself in the past, and now sometimes when I have reached out to different colleagues because I need help with multilingual projects, the first thing that many people face is, I don't have a keyword research tool. I cannot pay for a keyword research tool because it costs $100 a month, and it's not worth for me to have a keyword research tool. So sometimes I get answers to my emails, can you help with this project? Answers such as, I don't have my own keyword research tool, or I can only use a keyword research tool if you provide it to me, etc., etc. And I think this for a marketing agency or for a translation agency, it doesn't look very good, simply because if you don't have access to a keyword research tool, it's an indicator that you are not an expert in the topic. Because if you were an expert, you would use a keyword research tool daily. So I remember back in 2013, when I had a client, a translation agency, and they were requesting me to use Trados. I didn't have Trados, and I remember it was about 700 euros that I had to pay for my first license of Trados. And I was like, well, I don't know if that was like my first big client. And I don't know if I want to spend 700 euros, but I said, okay, like, let's go with it. And I spent 700 euros. I still remember paying with my Visa, and yeah, it was worth it. So my advice for this first challenge is there are more expensive options, such as SEMrush or Ahrefs, which I understand they are quite pricey, but there are also other options available, such as Ubersuggest or another tool called Mangolds. And at the end of the day, if you only have one project and you say, how can I pay for this tool if I not want to make enough money? And my advice is, try to charge a bit more than you would charge, or try to absorb the cost somehow, because I'm sure that many of you watching this today one day paid for a Trados license, and you have to absorb the cost of the Trados license. So it's pretty much the same. So same situation, you need a keyword research tool. And from experience, clients that are serious and marketing agencies that are serious, they want to work with SEMrush or with Ahrefs, simply because all the team use data from these tools, so they don't want data from different tools, that in the end, they deliver data to the client from 5 different tools. They want everything to be uniform. So yeah, that's the first challenge that everyone is going to face who is starting, and I totally understand it, but that may be a solution. Try to absorb the cost somehow, and remember that it happened to you with Trados. It's just, you just have to repeat the same again and succeed in this field. Okay, so second challenge that I'm going to talk about is when you do keyword research, which is one of the most popular services translators offer, sometimes there is fear by translators to provide keywords that people use in their country but are not very popular. I've run a number of courses now, a number of workshops, and I have exercises on purpose when I know this problem is going to arise. And what I find many times is that students, instead of giving the keyword that fulfills the search intention of the keyword in English, they provide a keyword that is very similar just for the fact that that keyword has a higher search volume. So we cannot do that. So for example, yesterday I published something on LinkedIn, and it was about a scenario where we are translating the keyword baby food pouches. So baby food pouches is like a little plastic bag that usually has either fruits inside, like juice, or it has savory foods such as beef casserole, for example, and is different from a baby food jar. Now, in English, both baby food pouches and baby food jar are two terms, two keywords that are very popular. There are like more than 6,000 people every month looking for these keywords. When you go into Spanish, for example, and you try to find keywords that that you can use when localizing these terms, you find out that the keyword for baby food pouch only has 70 searches worldwide. So that's very little compared to 7,000 searches. So I've seen this many times. There is a risk that the translator is going to say, oh, well, I'm going to provide something more popular because this really, I cannot provide this keyword because it has very low search volume. I'm going to provide a keyword that is more similar to baby food jar, because in Spanish, that's the popular keyword, baby food jar, not baby food pouch. So we cannot do that, okay? If there is a keyword that matches the search intention 100%, we have to provide that keyword. We cannot just provide the similar keywords for the fact that there's more search volume. So prioritize search intention, prioritize a keyword being relevant over a keyword having a high search volume. And in line with that, the third challenge that I've seen many times is when we need to do keyword localization, which is also referred to as keyword transcreation, even though I don't agree with that name. But when we are doing keyword localization instead of keyword research, we have a very big challenge, and is that our client usually is going to give us a list with 200, 400, 600 keywords, and they are going to say, localize these keywords one by one. When we are localizing keywords one by one, we don't know where these keywords go in the website. We don't know the URL they belong to. We don't know the website page where they go. So our information, our knowledge of these keywords is limited to what we can see on our Excel document. This means that we may not always provide the most accurate keyword. So taking the example of baby food pouches can contain sweet fruits, or savory food. In Spanish, the most popular term is related to sweet fruits, okay? So it's a pouch with fruits inside. Now, if I only have the keyword in English, that is baby food pouch, and in Spanish, I only have two options, one for savory and one for sweet, I don't know which one I should choose because I don't have information. In English, I have one keyword, which is just, it doesn't say whether it is savory or whether it is sweet. And in Spanish, I have to choose either savory or sweet. So I cannot provide an accurate localization because I cannot see the product. I cannot see the page. So that's something that happens very often when you do keyword localization. You don't have access to the URL, so you can't understand the product. And from my experience, for this very reason, keyword localization is more effective when we are performing this service for pay-per-click, for paid advertising, rather than for SEO, because when it's for pay-per-click, there's no problems with cannibalization, there's no problems with not matching the search intention. Pay-per-click at the end of the day is to drive qualified traffic to the website, so you're not going to have the same problems as with SEO. So my advice is that if you are doing keyword localization for a client, first question you should ask is, how are these keywords going to be used? Are they going to be used for SEO or are they going to be used for PPC? And if they're going to be used for SEO, I would warn the client that there are limitations to the accuracy of the keywords that we can provide because we don't have all the information that we should have about them.
Mm-hmm. So just a question before you go to the fourth challenge. Why don't you agree with the term SEO transcreation? I'm curious about that.
Simply because I think transcreation has to do with making a message work in the target country. So I don't know where SEO comes into play with transcreation. I think SEO localization is a better term rather than SEO transcreation. You know, so I think just in my mind, in my understanding, transcreation is about translating a slogan in a car brochure where you want to captivate the people who are looking to buy a car. So I think it has very little to do with SEO.
SEO. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. And the fourth challenge.
The fourth challenge. In SEO, most times things are not black and white. And it's very common, especially for content creators, when you write a blog post, it's very common to revisit, to check that blog post in 2, 3, 4, 5 months to see how that blog post is performing. And looking at different data, you can get insights that can tell you how you can improve that piece of content. So because things are not black and white, sometimes you're gonna get things 100% right, sometimes you're not gonna get things 100% right. Because things are not black and white, clients may come to you and say, why are you choosing a keyword in singular rather than plural? And that has happened to me. A client said to me, why you are choosing the keyword in singular rather than in plural? And you have to give an explanation. So the fourth challenge is you're gonna need to sometimes justify your choices, because things are not black and white, and your clients are gonna ask you why this is this way. And my advice here is read about SEO, practice SEO, and get into the well, because the more knowledge you have, the better you're going to be able to justify your choices. And when you can give a reason for the job that you have done, the client is unlikely that it's going to come to you and say, no, that's wrong. Because as I said, things are not black and white. And as long as you can justify your choice, I think you're going to be in the right. You can always go back to the piece of content. You can always go back to the translation and perhaps optimize it in the future if you need to. But it's important being able to justify your choices.
Mm-hmm. So we have talked about the past, we have talked about the present, and I'm going to ask you also about the future. So how do you see the future of SEO translation?
So I see the future where SEO translation and content creation or SEO copywriting are going to come together more and more. Why is that? Because if we are translating a blog post about what is a blog and how does it work, and Spanish people ask for what is a blog and what do you use it for, you are going to want to answer both questions in Spanish. So you already are answering the question, what is a blog? So you just have to translate that section, but then you are not answering the other question that the Spanish people look for, which is, what do you use a blog spot for? Okay, so I think that the future is going to be a scenario where translators and content creators are going to translate content, and they are going to tweak the content, and they are going to add new sections to answer the question that people have in each specific country. So that's how I can see the future.
Mm-hmm. So these two figures will merge into one at the end.
I think I can see that happening, and I think that translators have a very good opportunity developing their skills as writers, because the likelihood is, if you like translating, or if you are good at translating, you can also be good at writing. It's not always the case, but if you would like to explore that possibility, I encourage everyone to do it.
Mm-hmm. So next week, you are going to be hosting TranslaStars' brand new SEO Translation Workshop. And can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so basically I'm going to be talking about what is SEO and translation, and then I'm going to specifically cover how you can provide the most popular services translation agencies demand. So we're gonna be doing practical exercises to perform keyword research, to perform keyword localization, and to do SEO translation. So when you are having your first real assignment from a translation agency, you know what to do, or at least it's not the first time that you are doing it. So you are on the right path.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be next week on the 23rd and 24th of February at 6 p.m., if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes. It's 6 p.m. Central Europe time to 8. Yeah, so it's 2 hours every day. So yeah, it's gonna be Thursday and Friday next week.
Okay, so now it's the time, if you have more questions, to write them. We got one before and I tried to answer, but I'm going to share it again so we can give a proper answer to it. Can you write the software/tools that you mentioned in the caption? And you mentioned SEMrush, Ubersuggest, Mongoose, and the other one, which I don't remember.
Hrefs. So yeah, H Hrefs. Ahrefs. Hrefs.
Okay, I'm going to paste it in the chat so you can find it. And this is, so you said SEMrush and Href are the most expensive ones, whilst Ubersuggest and Mongoose are cheaper.
A bit more affordable, yeah.
Okay, we have another question. Ta-da, from Elle. Any reference materials / readings David would like to recommend on SEO localization? Thanks.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of materials out there. Maria, who is also running some courses in TranslaStars, I believe she has a book called The Bible Translation, if I'm correct. And I believe she may cover SEO localization in that book. So yeah, I haven't read it myself, but I believe it's a very good book.
And then if you have some more questions, this is the time for you to write them. Otherwise, we are going to say goodbye to David, who has been so nice and kind to be here today with us. So thank you, David, for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us. And we are looking forward to seeing you next week in the workshop.
Thank you for having me, Roberta. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.